Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about graphing the three forms, part 4, standard form. Let's take a look at what that form looks like. Standard form is written in the example below, ax plus by equals c. So for example, if you have 2x plus 3y equals 12, a is going to stand for 2, b will be 3, and c will equal 12. Now let's see how we can graph this. So to graph in standard form, we're going to use intercepts. And we learned about intercepts earlier, where those are where the line is going to cross both the x and y axis. So in order to graph for the x-intercept, we're going to substitute in 0 for y. So we plug in 0 for y. We do 3 times 0 is 0, giving us 2x equals 12. Divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals 6. So that's our x-intercept. To solve for the y-intercept, we'll substitute 0 in for x. So in this case, it'll be 2 times 0, which is going to give us 0 plus 3y. Divide both sides by 3, and we end up with y equals 4. So then we have the intercepts of 6, 0, and 0, 4. So we're going to take those two intercepts, plot them on the graph, and draw a line between. Let's see how that's done in the next example. So here we're going to graph in standard form. So we've got the function 3x plus 3y plus 5y equals 15. So we're first going to have to find our intercepts before we can plot them on the graph, and then draw a line between. So we'll start with our x-intercept by substituting in y for 0. So we're going to have 3x plus 5. We're going to substitute in 0 for y is equal to 15. Now we're going to draw our wall and solve our equation. So 5 times 0 is 0. We end up with 3x equals 15. Divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, or 1x. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. So we know our x-intercept is now 5. So that's going to look like 5, 0 on our coordinate plane. Now we're going to do the same thing for our y-intercept, except this time we're going to substitute 0 for x. So we got 0 here, plus 5y is going to equal 15. Now it's time to set up and solve our equation. So 3 times 0 is going to give us 0. So we're going to end up with 5y equals 15. Divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, or 1y. And 15 divided by 5 is 3. So we have y equals 3. Or our y coordinate is going to look like 0, 3. Or 0 y-intercept. So now that we have those points, we're going to plot them on the graph. So we've got 5, 0. That point's going to be right here at 5, 0. Our y-intercept is going to be at 0, positive 3. So now that we have both points on the graph, we can draw a line between them, drawing a line between them in a nice straight line all the way across the graph, making sure that we have arrows on the end of our graph or on our line, because these are not the only 2 points that make this function true, but they are the 2 points we use to graph. Now let's move on to the next example. So here in this word problem, it says Benny earned $16 per hour babysitting and $20 per hour cashiering. Altogether, he earns $320 last week. So we first have to make this graph in standard form before we can go ahead and figure out what our intercepts are. So we know $16 per hour babysitting. We don't know how many hours he's babysitting, so that's going to be 16x. Plus, he's going to be making $20 while he's going to be cashiering, but again, we don't know how much money how many hours he's going to be cashiering. And since that number of hours could be different than the hours babysitting, we have to use a different variable, so we'll be using y. We know all told together, though, when he gets this money together, he's going to have a total of $320, so that's going to be on the other side of our equation. So now it's time to find our intercept. So we'll start with our x-intercept again, just like we did on the last one. We'll substitute in 0 for y. So we're going to end up with 16x. 20 times 0 is 0. And we're going to end up with equaling 320 there. So we're going to draw our wall, divide both sides by 16. And when we do that, 16 divided by 16 is 1, or 1x. 320 divided by 16 is 20. So we end up with x equals 20. So our point there is going to be 20, 0. Now we're going to do the same thing for our y-intercept, except this time we're going to plug in 0 for x. So 16 times 0 is 0. So we end up with 20y is going to be equal to 320. So again, we're going to draw our wall, divide both sides by 20, divide both sides by 20. 20 divided by 20 is 1, or 1y. 320 divided by 20 is 16. So we end up with y equals 16. So our point there is going to be at 0, 16. So now that we've got our 2 points, we're going to plot them on the graph so that we can graph them. So 20, 0 is going to be over here. So we're going to put a point right there at 0, 20. All right, and our other point is going to be at 0, 16. So again, we're going to put a point at 0, 16. So we've got 10, 12, 14, 16 here. So now that we've got 2 points on our line, we're going to draw a straight line between them. Again, we're going to have arrows on the end of our line, and we're going to try and keep it as straight as possible. A lot easier said than done, but you'll have the line tool, so it'll be a little bit easier for you. And that brings us to the end of this graph. Let's go to the next example. So here we are at example A, and it wants us to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So we're going to try and again look for slope-intercept, which is always y equals mx plus b. We're going to write that right here so that we know what we're looking for. So we're trying to get y by itself. We're going to use what we learned in the equations unit about literal equations to try and get the y by itself. So we're going to go ahead and draw our wall. We're going to subtract 2x from both sides because we're trying to get that y by itself. These are going to cancel, leave me with 9y. I can't combine 18 and negative 2x. They're not the same terms, so I got negative 2x plus 18. And then my last step is going to be to divide that by 9. So divide everything by 9. These are going to cancel, leaving me with y. Negative 2/9 cannot be reduced, so we're going to end up with negative 2/9 x. But 18 divided by 9 can happen, and that's going to be positive 2. Now we've got ourselves in slope-intercept. Let's go to the next example. So this time it wants us to write our equation in standard form. So we're going to have remember our standard form is ax plus by equals c. So we're going to want that to look exactly like we have now, and we have our y and c on opposite sides of the equation. So we're going to again use what we know about literal equations. So we're going to draw our wall. We want to get that c to the one side and the y to the other. It doesn't matter in which order we move things. We'll move the c first. So we're going to subtract 10 on both sides. These are going to cancel, leave me with 4x equals y minus 10. And then I want to get that y to the other side of the equation, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract y on both sides, subtract y on this side. These are going to cancel, leave me with 4x minus y equals negative 10. And I now have it in standard form where I have x plus or minus y equals c, and that is the negative 10. So I've completed this example. Now let's go on to the last example. So here we've got our old friend point slope, and it wants us to write in standard form. So remember our standard form is going to be ax plus by equals c. Now, you can take point slope, turn it into slope intercept, and then turn it into standard form, but that's an extra step. You're welcome to do so. That will get you the right answer, assuming you have everything correctly, but we're going to try and jump straight to standard form. So we're going to go ahead and draw our wall. And the first thing we're going to have to do is distribute. So we've got 2 times x and 2 times negative 16. We're going to end up with y minus 6 on one side, 2x, and negative 12. All right, so we've got to get those x's to the other side of the equation. So we're going to subtract 2x on both sides, subtract 2x on both sides. These are going to cancel, leave me with y, or negative 2x, plus y, minus 6 equals negative 12. So the last step we're going to do is we're going to move that positive 6 or negative 6 to the other side by adding 6 to both sides. These are going to cancel, leave me with negative 2x plus y equals negative 6. So I now have it in the standard form, and I've done what I came to do. That brings us to the end of this problem. It also brings us to the end of this set of notes. If you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one.